12:03 in the afternoon. You said good morning.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Picky.
I thought maybe you were like in Hawaii or something.
No, I hope you had a good morning.
Oh, you know what? I'll tell you, I had a fabulous morning. Fabulous. I get to one of my favorite things in this God-given earth that I get to do is do Shabbat with the nursery school kids. And they are just so delicious and they have so much fun and they love it. It's like, you know the story of when Moses is coming down from the mountain with the Torah, and Moses is like, all right, I'm giving everybody the Torah. Let's do this. And the people are like, yeah, right? Give me that Torah, give me. And then Moses is like, whoa. Take it easy, everybody. Take it easy. Before I give you this Torah, who's going to take care of it? Who's going to be the guarantors of this Torah? Right? And the people are like, our elders will be the guarantors of the Torah. Now give us that Torah. And Moses is like, well, elders pretty good. But you know what? Sorry, not good enough. And they're like, oh, so they got to think again. They're like, Our teachers will be the teachers, and the prophets, they'll be the ones who will take care of the Torah, will be guarantors of the Torah. Now give it that Torah. And God and Moses are like, all right, pretty good. Sorry, not good enough. And they're like, what? So the people are thinking again, and then they say, our children will be the guarantors of the Torah. And Moses and God say, well, for the sake of the children, I will give you the Torah and they will be good guarantors. And the reason why I think that is because of their pure curiosity, right? The children, they have such wide-eyed, fabulous question curiosity, right? They want to know, and they ask you questions for the sake of the question rather than like trying to catch you or like say something or like they ask you the question, but they don't really want to hear the answer. They just want to say it so then they get to talk, or they ask, they want to see if they can stump you with something, but no, their questions are pure curiosity, right? And I think that is the key, right? And you know what? I would venture to say, that so many of us on like this call or any, like when you go to these classes that you're here is because you also have that childlike, not childish, different, but childlike curiosity. And when we have that, it opens so many doors for learning and growing, I think. So to make a long story longer, that's why I love to go to the, and they're walking, you walk around with the Torah and they're like, though between you and me, you sometimes have to be careful. Have you ever heard that don't ever eat anything that, a little kid makes for you? You may make a little taste, or like groups or a class makes for you, like cookies or something, or hamantashen. You never, why? You never know what, where their hands have been, right? Oh, that's your favorite hamantashen flavor. Oh, mine is apricot. Oh, mine is poppy seed. Oh, mine is booger, right? It's like, because it's like, so you never know what you're going to get in one of those hamantashen made by a kid. So it's the same thing when they're, you're walking around with the Torah. Sometimes the kids got their finger in their nose, or they're so excited, but they touch the Torah. Right? A doctor friend of mine, he said he never wears a tie. Never wears a tie. Why? Because he says those are like the most unsanitary things that we wear is ties. We never wash them, and they're all just full of gross. Torah covers Might be a close second if they use them in the nursery school. Look, I'm just saying. Merle, what do you got for us?
If you've never seen Rabbi Eshel with the little kids or even all age kids, it's a pretty amazing experience and it's really a treat.
Oh, I thank you, Merle. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, but it's I mean it seriously.
Well, I appreciate that. Anyway, we have some fascinating things to discuss today. Fascinating. And it might not, it's very subtle, a couple things, very subtle, but with massive implications. Massive. All right. How about a little blessing first? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'tzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Let us get busy with Torah. Let us soak ourselves in Torah. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Emor. All right, I also want to just fix my zoom so I can see everybody as well as I can. I got everybody. All right, here we go. Check this out. This is going to be fascinating. Adonai spoke to Moses saying, speak, Emor, right? To the Israelite people and say to them, these are my fixed times, the fixed times of Adonai, which you shall proclaim as sacred occasions. All right, so the first ones we're talking about, we're going to talk about the week, the work week, right? On 6 days, work may be done, but on the seventh day, there shall be a Sabbath of complete rest, a sacred occasion. You shall do no work. It shall be a Sabbath of Adonai throughout your settlements. These are the set times, Adonai, the sacred occasions, which you shall celebrate each at its appropriate time. Get ready. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, there shall be a Passover offering to Adonai. And on the 15th day of the month, Adonai, a feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days. Speak. Get ready for this. Speak to the Israelite people thus, in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you shall observe complete rest, a sacred occasion commemorated with loud blasts. You shall not work your occupation, and you shall bring an offering by fire to Adonai. All right. So the first one, we're going to come back to it in a second. Which holiday are they talking? Well, the first one is Shabbat, right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Good. What is the second one that we're talking about? The second one that it's referring to is Passover, right? We're talking about unleavened bread. Okay, good. Next, speak to the Israelite people thus, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, you shall observe complete rest, a sacred occasion commemorated with a loud blast. Which one is that? Rosh Hashanah, right? No, I know I saw some hands. I'm just getting that out of the way to get to the discussion. Sorry, Ben. Apologize. You shall not work your occupation, you shall bring an offering. Okay, mark the 10th day of this 7th month is the day of atonement. It shall be a sacred occasion for you. You shall practice self-denial, and you shall bring an offering by fire, and you shall do no work throughout that day, for it is the day of atonement, on which expiation is made on your behalf before God. Indeed, any person who does not practice self-denial throughout the day shall be cut off from kin, and whoever does any work throughout the day, I will cause that person to perish from among the people. That's pretty rough. Do no work, whatever. It is a law for all time throughout the ages. In all your settlements, it shall be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you shall practice self-denial. On the 9th day of the month at the evening, from evening to evening, you shall observe this your Sabbath. All right, one more. Just this last one, and then we're going to go back, I promise. Say to the Israelite people, on the 15th day of the 7th month, there shall be a feast of booths. Do we know which one that is? Sukkot. Feast of booths to Adonai, to last 7 days. The first day shall be sacred, a sacred occasion. You shall not work at your occupation. 7 days you shall bring offering by fire to Adonai. On the 8th day you shall observe a sacred occasion and bring an offering by fire to Adonai. It is a solemn gathering. You shall not work at your occupation. All right. Question. How many days of Passover? How many days of Rosh Hashanah? How many days of Sukkot do we celebrate? Start with how many days of Passover? How many days?
7.
Do we celebrate 7? Fascinating question. Great. How
It
many
depends.
how many days of Rosh Hashanah do we celebrate?
2,
2. How many days of Sukkot do we celebrate?
7.
Okay. Merle, why
Yes.
did you say 7, 2, and 7? Why 7 days of Passover? How many people agree here that we celebrate 7 days of Passover? How many people
Or-
disagree that we
Or
celebrate?
8.
Or
depending on-
8.
Depending on how you practice.
Okay, what does that mean depending on how you practice? Let's go to the next one. Rosh Hashanah, how many days do we celebrate? Merle, you said 2, yet you're only celebrating 7 of Passover. Why 2 Rosh Hashanah, but only 7 Passover?
I guess that's just how I family practiced as I was
All
raised,
right.
or what I was
Sukkot.
taught in temple and Sunday school.
Because I was on Sunday school. Sukkot, how many days of Sukkot? What'd you say, Doug? You muted. Doug, you're muted. Go ahead.
Isn't it 7?
Well, it says 7, yet we celebrate 8.
Right.
All right. We've got 8 to 8 is the way the vast majority, and we'll get to this, the vast majority of people celebrate these holidays: Passover, Rosh Hashanah, and Sukkot. But here it is saying in the Torah, you only celebrated 7, 1, and 7. All right. I see Pnina is chomping at the bit to share some knowledge. Okay, Pnina, drop some knowledge. Go ahead.
We have a difference in times because where we are, if we are in Israel, it's going to be 7 hours difference than here. So when we celebrate
9
the
hours.
holiday,
It's 9 and 10 hours
It's
difference.
9 and 10.
is that really? I thought it
Yeah,
was 7.
10 hours, but klal,
Maybe
sometimes
in
9.
the summer and the winter, because they change the clock, maybe it becomes
Yeah,
different.
10 and 9. Anyway,
So it doesn't matter. Okay, so there is a difference of a few hours, and you want to make sure that you don't violate the how do you say the kodesh,
the
the
holiness,
sanctity of the day. So you do another day to make sure that you're not missing on what's going on in the east. In the east.
Okay, so what we're saying here, and why Merle said, well, that's what I was taught. Check this out.
Because nobody explained to her that it's a
No. It's not that nobody explained to her. It's not
No.
that nobody explained to her, right?
No.
So in Israel, it's so fascinating. Even though we lived outside of Israel, we practice our holidays and our tefillah, our prayers, focusing on Israel.
Right, and the
Right, on the
timeline over
east.
there.
So, for example, no, not even just the timeline, but like when we pray in the Amidah, when we pray for rain and we pray for wind and we pray for dew on the ground, DEW, we're praying for that to happen not here, but in Israel for their crops. All of our prayers are about the things that happen over there. Now, it is the same thing with these holidays. It used to be, right? Because yes, you're right about you don't know the exact time, but today in our modern day and age, we know when time happens in different parts of the world. It's very easy for us to know what time it is in Israel right now or anywhere in the world, right? But back in the day, they did it. And the way that they passed, all right, it's time to start the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. It's time to start the holiday of Passover. What did they do? It was like from back in the day, like, or you see like the Lord of the Rings, they did it by fire signals right on the mountaintops. And it's like, oh, I see that. And then they like that. And it gets passed and it gets passed and it gets passed and it gets passed and it gets passed. And there were actually documented, get ready for this, the first kind of disruptive hackers and fake news putting out there people who were like, let's mess with these rabbis and we're going to light the fire when it's not supposed to light and we're going to confuse everybody and it's going to throw everybody off. Right? So what did they do? What did they do? Already hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they decided, because it took time for it to reach to Europe, it took time for it to reach to Babylon, right? It took time to, they're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to celebrate these things, for 2 days to make sure that we got in on time, that we will blanket, we'll make sure. It's like, there are some antibiotics, it just kills everything just to make sure they get the right thing, right? Like a Z-Pack. Take a Z-Pack, something like that. It gets everything, even though you're trying to get one specific thing. Here, we're like, all right, let's just do 2 days so we guarantee ourselves to get the right times in. However, why did Merle say 7 days? Because, yes, in Israel, they do 7. Outside of Israel, the diaspora will do 8 in order to catch all. However, in the mid-19th century, like a little before 1850, right, the first Reform Jews were like, we now have scientific ways of calculating when holidays begin and end. So this idea of a catch-all 2 day is no longer relevant. We're going to go back to 1 day. However, because there wasn't conservative reconstructive, then it was like the Orthodox movement was to be called Orthodox rather than traditional or just being Jewish, right? Was born out of these reformers are wanting to go against what these reformers were doing. They were like, no, we keep in this tradition 2 days. This is what we're going to do. And the conservative movement, when it was established, they too were given, get ready for this, rather than like a blanket union statement as they did in the reform movement, in the conservative movement, they were like, we're going to let each rabbi of their community decide if they're going to celebrate 2 days or 1 day of the holiday. So then that got all confusing and famished, right? But the conservative movement, the reform movement, the Orthodox movement, Reconstructionist movement, humanist movement, whatever your movement that moves you, in Israel, they all still do 7 days of Passover, 7 days Sukkot, 1 day Rosh Hashanah. However, everybody does 1 day of Yom Kippur. Why? Ben, you're muted.
I was talking to myself, Rabbi, but
Oh.
I mean, 1 day I would think it would be difficult to deny oneself the pleasures of eating or other things.
Very nice. Less about the pleasures of eating versus deny oneself the necessary sustenance and water and whatnot to survive. So there was the decision with Yom Kippur, okay, but you got to do it. We're only going to make you do 1 day, but you got to do it. As you said, this one, it says you're going to be put to death if you don't do it. Doesn't say that about any of the other holidays. So it's, Stacy, I see, go ahead.
Okay. Rabbi, is there any particular significance to whether we celebrate it 7 days or 8 days, or, I mean, is there something sort of independent of that we should know? Well, does it make a difference if it's celebrated one extra day?
That is such a massive question, isn't it? If we're going to say, I'm going by what the Torah says, I don't have to do that extra day. Why do that extra day? What's that about? Or do you do it by, well, this is tradition, right? B'Shem Omro, in the name of our ancestors, then we are going to do it because this is an additional form of practice, sort of like why we continue to read Haftarah on Shabbat versus, reading Torah. Do you know why we read Haftarah on Shabbat as well as Torah? You got an idea? Oh, well, all right. Tangent. Hold on. It's actually not so tangential. So, back in the day, why did we start reading Haftarah? And how did they Haftarah? And by the way, it's Haftarah. It's not half Torah or half Torah. It's not half a Torah. It's not that. It's Haftarah, meaning like additional or addition, like maftir, addition. So back in the day, the Romans were in charge of everything. It was illegal to read Torah out loud, to chant Torah out loud, punishable by death. So the rabbis were like, whoa, we still got to do something here. So they chose passages from like Nevi'im, Ketuvim, right? The other parts of the Tanakh that had similar themes to the Torah portion to be read that day. So instead, they read from those pieces because that wasn't considered illegal. But then when, all of that changed, when you can now you can read Torah, it's like, well, okay, don't read Haftarah anymore. But they're like, no, we'll continue doing this because this is fabulous. We like to make services longer. No, they didn't say that, but they wanted to add, to continue that tradition. So it's the same thing of, Stacy, that as part of tradition, we keep that going. But that's the funny thing in the Reform movement in the States, the vast majority only do 7-7-1. At Wilshire Boulevard Temple, it's like we've never really decided what do we do with that second day. And but we made a decision that we do 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Many congregations don't. We do 2 days. We do 8 days of Passover. Some congregations only do 7. We do 8 days of Sukkot, because by doing 8 days of Sukkot, that moves the day in your community that you're going to do Simchat Torah, right? Because Simchat Torah comes right after. You've got Sukkot, and then you have Shmini Atzeret, which is like the eighth additional day. Like you don't want the celebration to end, so you're going to add. And then Simchat Torah, if you're doing 7 versus 8, that's going to change the day that you do that. So we've decided to follow a more traditional route with that. But yeah, on
excuse me.
Yes, go, Nina.
The reason that we have Shmini Atzeret is because Simchat Torah comes right after that. So Sukkot actually gets another day, but it's called like the stopping day, to give the Simchat Torah more importance or individuality. Mm-hmm. So that Shmini Atzeret means a stopping day, Latzor. So you don't mix it as a part of Sukkot, to give it the importance that it deserved on it by its own, Simchat Torah.
Yeah.
So that's why you have Shmini Atzeret.
Well, that's one reason.
Okay.
Right? It's also, it's not the push-pull. It's also because you don't want to end how fabulous Sukkot is.
Oh, well, yeah, every holiday I don't want to end.
Right? No, I understand that, but it's a push-pull. It's
I'm not arguing. I'm just agreeing with you. Yes.
All right, Brad.
Yeah, Rabbi, when you read this passage,
yeah,
the first thing that entered my mind was the quote, I don't remember which philosopher talked about it, but how Jews celebrate in cathedrals of time and not in cathedrals of space, since this is all about time. And I always thought that was a beautiful, beautiful metaphor, but I never quite grasped what a cathedral of time is. And how might that relate to this passage, which is all about time?
it 100, and if there was anything more than 100%, it would be that it has exactly everything to do with it, right? It's like, we've talked about this next idea, and it 100% relates to it. We've talked about this before, right? That there's only one thing that when God created is intrinsically holy, and that's what?
Time.
Yes, Brad, exactly. The only thing, everything else, the holiness only exists in potential. Only exists in potential. It's what you do with it. Holiness, it's like a verb. You got to do something with it, except for time. Time in itself is holy. So that is that idea of cathedral, right? What is that? It's that vision of religiosity and holiness and sacred. Time is the only thing, not even human beings, right? In order for us to be holy, we need to work at it, right? And where do I get that from? Right? Yes, we're being created in the image of God, which says that, we're not God, but it's in the image of God. And it's about how detailed and focused can we make that image, right? The difference between seeing something that's super pixelated versus something that is like really, really detailed, right? Like 13-inch black and white television with rabbit ears, right? Trying to get that static versus watching something like on an 80-inch 8K surround sound IMAX laser, right? You could be watching the same thing. One is going to be a lot more vivid. So how do we become as vividly created in the image of God? It's about our actions. And then here's the rub. It's not just up to you. It's not just up to you. What do I mean by that? Right? Just, what is it? Last week, 2 weeks ago, when we're talking about Kiddushim, the portion, and here's, I know about the verb, it says, Kiddushim tihiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Right? You be holy, because I, Adonai, your God, am holy. God is saying, be holy, do it. You got to do something about it. That's a verb, that's action. And it's saying, Kiddushim tihiyu, you plural, not you singular, you all, which says to me that all of our holinesses are directly related. And in order to fulfill and reach our fullest potential, I need to rely on you, and you need to rely on me, if that makes sense.
So Rabbi, are you saying that all time is holy according to Torah? It's not just Shabbat, it's not just these holidays, it's every minute of every day there is holiness in all time.
I personally, yes, agree with that. Though that's the conversation. It's like, oh, is it only specific moments in time? Right? Because it says that God makes that on Shabbat. That's the holiness. Shabbat is the holiness. These sacred days are the holiness, right? But one could extrapolate out about time in itself as it's, time outside of human beings is infinite, but for us, it's limited, right? So I think because it's limited, right? There are many, many beautiful readings in our tradition that talk about, well, it's all time for one human's purpose, but specifically in our text, it's talking about these set times. I say Zoom user has raised his or her or their hands. Zoom user, what say you?
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. It's Lady Madonna.
Hi,
I was still listening to everybody. I'm so thrilled to hear your voice. I think holiness is dressing modestly, waiting to your wedding day to be with your partner and making a sacred vow and honoring the Torah by abstaining from till you're married.
Okay. So so there you go. You're saying because thank you, right? It's all about actions, what we do. So it's like, okay, God's saying be holy, but what does that mean? So then it goes on, in the Torah portion, listing all these certain types of holiness code, if you will. But even that, we as maybe progressive thinkers, looking at a wider world, it's like we kind of extrapolate out what that could, should, can mean for us as we move through the world. Very good point. Thank you, Donna.
Thank
Go,
you. Thank
Penina,
you.
before we move on. Go ahead, Penina.
Okay, cool. I'm going to make it really quick. Israel is also called Eretz HaKodesh.
Eretz HaKodesh.
And according to Albright, he says that the religion and the country was a package deal, and you cannot separate the two.
And you cannot separate the two. Okay. Yeah, package deal. It's like people, land, we're all connected there.
Right.
All right. Now we're going to move on. All right. This is going to be there's a
Because that's where it started.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. Here we go.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna skip the Aaron part because now I've got, let me see. Oh, fight broke out over here. No, this is not the one I want. Oh, this is also pretty rough. We'll go back over here. There was a bunch of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I want to talk about set times, evening, morning, blasphemy, can't say God's name out loud. We might get back there, but there's another one. Oy, sorry, everybody. Wait a second. Look at this fancy one. This is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's not the one I wanted to talk about. Oy, éfose. One more time. Don't go anywhere. Because there's a fascinating thing here I need to show us. Oh, this is a good one too. This is interesting. Speak to the priest, son of Aaron, and say to them, shall not
Are
be.
you breaking the shaving smooth portion of your head, Rabbi?
That's a good one too, but that's not the one I wanted to look at. Oy.
It's just a question. Never mind.
No, I love that one. That's so good. But no, there was the one.
Which one?
Yes, here it is. Here it is. I got it. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to read this. Now, this one statement has massive theological and ideological implications. Speak to Aaron and say, no man of your offspring throughout the ages who has a defect shall be qualified to offer the food of his God. No one at all who has a defect shall be qualified. No man who is blind or lame or has a limb too short or too long, no man who has a broken leg or a broken arm or who is a hunchback or is a dwarf or who has a growth in his eye or has a boil scar or scurvy or crushed testes, no man among the offspring of Aaron the priest who has a defect shall qualify to offer Adonai's offering by fire. Having a defect, he shall not be qualified to offer the food of his God. Now, really, what is going on here? What type of implication does this have on our understanding, belief, theology of God? What do you think I'm talking about here? Go ahead, Merle.
I find it painful because I am in a way, partially because of my diabetes, partially because my back problem, I need a cane or a walker. I have vision issues that might or might not be from the diabetes. They don't really know. Does that make my practice of Judaism less?
Does it? So, okay. So then the question becomes, well, what does this say about God? What does this
If
say
we're in
about
the image
God?
of God, then is God pure and perfect as well?
Oh, okay.
I
So
mean, this really
here's the-
bothers me. We could go on for months on this one.
No,
Right,
because it's
right.
yeah,
It's calling me. Is this somebody calling me? Oh, and do you all hear that ringing? It's my wife. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, honey. We're talking Torah. I didn't pick it up. Don't throw me under the bus, people. Here we
I
go.
won't say a
So
word.
it's like if. So when we say if this person has a defect, so if that means, does God know if somebody's going to have a defect or not? What? And if we're all created in the image of God, and God created everyone and everything, and if we believe in an all-knowing and all everything God, and an interfering God, or a pull the strings God, or knows everything, anything that's going to happen. So, and that means that if there's a defect, that means that God's creations have the potential to be defective. So there is no perfectness. That's, I mean, look, that could be, Brad, what do you got for us? Then I got you, Penina. Oh, I'm going to go Brad, Ben, Penina.
Well, I think this is in the context of the sacrifice. I mean, it's the person performing the sacrifice needs to be pure in the same way that the animal being sacrificed needs to be pure. And it's a purity issue. So I don't think it extends to the general population. It's all part of the sacrificial ritual.
No, yes, I agree with you. I get that. What I'm asking is, so God's creations are not perfect. Is that what we're saying? And if we're created in the image of God, what does that say about humans? But what does that say about God? God is not all powerful then. God is not all loving and all fabulous and all, controls everything, knows everything that's going to happen, sets everything up or is it that God weeps with us when we weep? God doesn't control. God can't, what's going to happen with certain things that happen in birth or sickness, or has no control of those kind of things, right? Or if God does, well, then that feels really like, I know, Penina, I got you. Don't worry. You're going to get there. Don't explode yet. Go ahead. Go.
I'm not exploding.
Yofi, tov. Ben, you're up. Whoa, sorry, Brad, did I cut you off? Finish your thought and then we'll go Ben.
I finished my thought.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Brad, Rabbi. As I think about this, who isn't, I think this is kind of what Merle said, who isn't defective in one way or another? I mean, there's a few items are listed here, blind or such, but who isn't defective? And is this to make us more accepting? So,
No.
hey, we'll do my, go ahead, Penina. Thank you.
No, Ben, finish your point. All right, Penina, go ahead.
This is such a practical piece, and it's such a fatherly piece. First of all, he's talking to Aaron specifically. And don't forget the two sons of Aaron got burnt in there and they died. And they don't know why. So now he's saying, if a person cannot run fast enough, if he's got a broken leg, or he's got a broken hand, or if he's not standing straight, those are people who can't run and he cannot see what they're doing. Like they say, even if a man has an eye that has something in it that he cannot see. And he's telling it to Aaron because the two sons already died. So he's trying to protect the priest here, that if somebody there from his sons have some kind of a defect that he cannot see well what he's doing, or he cannot run fast enough if there is a fire and it causes a fire because his hand is not steady, or whatever it is that they are doing that the two that died didn't do right. So he's protecting them. He says, don't take people who cannot, from your family. He says it, from your family, forever. Because he thinks
but
that
what
whatever
you're
it is that was
saying
read,
is about
could be
the
hereditary.
physicality of it.
So
And
he's just
what we
selling
say
them
about what happened to
the two sons who got burnt, and they
yes,
don't know
but they
why.
got burned because of
They don't know why.
what it's as clear. It's as clear why they died is as clear as this is as clear what you're saying being
Well, they're
fathered.
taking
Because they're
precautions
saying
here.
that
That's
the
how
other
I
people
see it.
died.
Very
right?
practical. That's all.
No, not it's not necessarily practical, because the reason why they were saying that the other people died was because of their own haughtiness and thinking of themselves in a different way. And that's the way one feels intellectually, emotionally, right? This is about somebody's physical attributes that they have no control over.
So he says, don't take chances with them and don't let them do the
killed
fire.
over their intention versus
He's
they
only
were killed
talking
over their
about the sacrifices
physicality.
themselves. He doesn't want them to be burnt again.
I think
because of the
you're
sacrifices.
letting them off the
He
hook.
cannot handle
You're
it.
letting them off the hook. Dina's letting them off the hook.
Rabbi, may I
Right.
say something?
He does.
Hold on,
let
I'm gonna
him
go
stay.
Brad and then I'm gonna go Donna.
But Rabbi, in the sacrifice,
Yeah,
must not the animal be pure?
it's exactly, so it's like, well, what?
So if the animal must be pure, why would it not follow that the person performing the animal?
You're absolutely
performing the
right, but it goes,
sacrifice
so then
be
it goes
pure?
back to the same question. What does it mean about God's creations and God creating? How is something impure? It's about one's own theological understanding of what God is. If God can't create, God doesn't create everything that God creates, I guess is not pure. Because if we're all created by God, and if we believe that God controls everything, knows everything, does everything, is everything, so now you're telling me that there is such a thing as impurity? And you're telling me there's such a thing as, somebody's can't.
He keeps saying, Misera Aaron.
Hold on, Pnina. Let
Rabbi,
Brad finish his thought, please.
Rabbi,
From Aaron's seed.
Hold on,
In other
Pnina,
words,
hold on.
Aaron's
Time out,
family.
Pnina. Don't make me mute you. I'll do it. I got a mute button. Go ahead,
Rabbi,
Brad.
we're not talking about purity in general. We're talking about ritual purity, and ritual purity is a particular form of purity that we're talking about.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but the fact that there even is this understanding of pure and impure, then that is created directly by God. Evil is created by God. Impurity is created by God. Sickness is created by God. Blindness is created by God. Poverty is created by God. Vengeful hatefulness created by God. Jack the messed up animal created by God.
Why are you drawing that conclusion that all of those things have to be created by God then? Just
So
because
there's
impurity doesn't necessarily mean that God created it.
Why not?
He created the heaven and the earth. I mean, what?
Keep going, Eric. Keep going.
No, he created heaven and earth and everything else. I mean, why can't he do it better?
So, okay. So this is Brad, Eric, Nina, you're all making my point. Well, I don't know, because you're like, well, what's your point? That even in our text, our Bible is like, we wrestle with, well, what is God? Right?
You're giving it a better one.
Well, so I don't know, better one or not. It's like, so because it's like, well, you love free will. I'm a big, if you love free will, if you love feeling that you have a choice and that you have dominion or the stewardship, then pure impure, that's going to be a human creation.
You're choosing to have cancer?
Now so. Oh my goodness,
have a-
you're
Rabbi, I have
absolutely right. So
Yes.
hold on. Donut, hold on.
Okay, okay.
So that's exactly. So it's like, well, did God create this? Is that a thing? But right there, and this is going to be like super heady cuckoo stuff. The cures for those things, for those awful, awful things in our lives exist. But
Yes.
have we found them yet? Have they been right in our reason? What are we putting our focus and our efforts and our mind? I mean, and this is like, we can't talk about this on such a micro level, right? For example, like there's enough food in the world to feed every human being 10 times over, yet there's still hungry people, famine, starvation, right? What did they say? Like so many different species of things in the Amazon are things that we don't even know about are being destroyed and going extinct every day. But maybe those could have been the things that would have helped to create the medicines to heal the cancer, or what is actually
Speak,
those
Rabbi.
cancers, right? We don't know all of those things, right, Eric? So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's like, are all those things connected? All right, I'm going to make a couple of pop culture references, a couple of them. Here it is. First one. So there's this game called Alchemy. Well, I guess this was about 12 years ago now. 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever smartphones first, it was like you get these building blocks, earth, wind, or like earth and fire and wind, those kind of things. And then you can start combining them to create other things. And then you combine those other things to create other things. And then you create other things to create other things. And slowly but surely you've created this entire new existence and world and life based on these elements, but you have to push them together. And if you don't do it right, other things don't create or don't happen, or they fall apart. So it's like all the building blocks, everything in potential is there. You just have to be able to put it together. Then Star Trek 4. Do you remember Star Trek 4, where they go back in time with the humpback whales? Right? So like humpback whales are actually offspring of aliens, and in the future, their alien friends come back to like find them, and they're like these noises that are destroying everything. But it turns out that it's actually humpback whale noises, so they have to go back in time because humpback whales are now in Star Trek present time extinct. So they have to go back and get these whales to bring them to the future so they can communicate back and forth, and then the aliens leave and don't destroy the earth. And it's this whole idea of like, you don't know what you're doing. You have this potential to destroy the earth but you destroyed the humpback whales instead. You could have saved the earth. So what I'm saying is, right, all of these things are out there, they exist, but as humans, we are making collective decisions in a way that benefits or hurts existence and
Amen, Rabbi.
sort of thing. Blah, blah,
May-
blah. Again,
May I speak, please?
make a long story longer. Go ahead, Donna. Go ahead. You've
Okay,
been
we have
patient.
to
Appreciate
correlation.
you.
Thank you so much for everybody. I just want to give an example. We're created God's image. I don't know everything. I have a lot to learn, but He spoke into existence in 7 days. Everything, right? We're created an image. We speak. But one day I was speaking. I said they need to tear down. I didn't call it City Hall. I said they need to tear down that Torah. Telling the kids I did. 5 days later, the bulldozers are tearing it down. I didn't call City Hall. I just made a statement. There were some monks over in Tibet, I heard, that had this person with cancer, and they envisioned and thought that cancer tumor would disappear, and it did. But you can't find the monks nowhere because they're making so much money.
Well, I don't know, Donna. I don't know about that, but that's
I want to say, I believe
fascinating.
we can create with our thoughts.
You create
we
with your
think.
thoughts, but it can't just be enough, right? It's like it can't just be, oh God, give me an A.
Exactly.
Give
Yes,
me an
sir.
A on my math test. I'm gonna think A on my math test. You gotta study. to get that A on the math test.
Yes,
right? You gotta
Rabbi.
study to get the A on that math test. All right, this is another interesting thing I want to show. Oh, Rebecca, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm going to agree with Brad. I really think it's about the ritual and how over time how we've made adaptations, and the adaptation that comes to mind for me is the Catholics, and the fact that the nuns and the priests are celibate, because that's a form of purity, right? For the ritual act of praying to Jesus.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'm not sure what Orthodox Jews have done to make that adaptation of purity in their rituals.
say that one more time.
I can only speak of Catholicism, not that I'm Catholic, because I don't know what the Orthodox Jews have done to adapt the purity of the ritual as the Catholics have done.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a fascinating point too, right? I mean, you have these different times when they quote unquote a woman is pure, impure, right? And when you can have like sexual relations with one's partner during certain times, and then Shabbat, it's like a double mitzvah, and it's like, well, purity versus procreation, and then all those kind of things. Yeah, you make a fabulous point, Rebecca.
just reference to the ritual.
Yeah, well, that in the Orthodox world, that's all connected. The ritual of it too. Everything is ritualistic. Everything is ritualistic, right? There's a blessing for everything. Blessing for everything, right? Blessing for going to the bathroom. It's true. Making sure that you have your holes open and closed. That's exactly right. That's exactly right in the thing. All right, Pnina, you've been waiting patiently, and then
Okay.
Merle.
I'm going to try to make it short. I think it's practicality. First of all, when God created the world, he left some stuff undone. And he said that he made man last, and he said, Le'ovda u'leshomra. You work it, you watch over it. In other words, it's up to us to find the solutions, because he gave us the smartness to do it. And I want to tell you that it's not affecting only the secular people that become doctors and stuff like that. My granddaughter is she's a speech therapist. She works in a clinic, and the people who own that and the chief there is an Orthodox Jew. And my other granddaughter is a registered dietitian. On Friday, her boss is also a religious Jew, and on Friday they don't work. The doctors, she's not working. She's got a day off on a Friday to get ready for Shabbat. So it's up to us to find the medicines and the solutions and to fix it up. Nobody said that we got a perfect world. He did us last because he felt that things has to still be done. Le'ovda u'leshomra. We got to keep over it and we got to work at it. And that's it. That's my take on it. So all these things that they're just giving precautions that were fit for the time that it happened. It just happened that Aaron lost his son. So it was proper for them to say and to give them an example of something that they can understand. So they said that the cow head has to be blah, 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 perfect. This has to be perfect. But the whole idea is pay attention. Be careful. Take the time to think what you're doing and what you're picking up to kill. That's it.
But in that argument, then it's like, well, why did you let my sons do that in the first place? If you
It's
had
not a matter
why
of,
didn't you tell me these
no.
rules beforehand, and then maybe I would have stopped them from trying
If he said Le'ovda u'leshomra, is you got to do the work. You got to figure it out.
No, said
You
but
gotta
if
keep it.
you're gonna go do the work, but I'm gonna keep all the rules. I'm gonna keep the rules hidden.
You need guidelines. You need.
I'm gonna keep the guidelines hidden, but I want you to go do the work. But you don't know if you're gonna do it right.
How do you teach a child? How do you teach a child? You always tell him. Sometimes you show him.
But you don't go to the extreme of zapping them off of this world. You don't go to the extreme of zapping them. It's not 7 nishma, right? But let me do some nishmaing over here.
Yeah. I'm sure that nobody.
Merle,
listen.
Brad. Go ahead, Merle, then Brad.
I think it's up to us as individuals
That's right.
to help each other with whatever things are wrong, whether they're mental, whether they're physical.
Amen. Okay.
But you have to figure out, you have to accept the fact that there's an issue with you or with a friend or relative or whatever. And then you have to figure out a way to make it work. And no doctor, no offense, no rabbi, nobody can tell you how you're going to do it. You have to accept the fact that you have to make it, you have to accept your disability, whatever it might be. And you have to figure out a way to make it work so that it benefits all of you. If I walk around saying, I'm never going to be able to do this again, and I can't do this again, my daughter and her family will yell at me and say, you can do it. You just move up to the next tool.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think that it's up to the individual or their community, their immediate community, to attempt to make it work. And if you make no effort to make it work, then that's a problem you have to deal with.
Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing. Full disclosure, I totally 100% agree with you. What I'm saying is that when you look at just like the nuance of some of this wording, it can have a massive theological implication on one's understanding of God. Go ahead,
Oh,
Brad.
yeah.
Bring us
Yeah.
home.
I mean,
Bring us home, Brad.
For sure.
Rabbi, if you're asking, where does impurity come from?
Yeah.
Which I think is what you're asking. I mean, if you're a Catholic and you believe in the concept of original sin, you have a ready answer. But as Jews, we don't believe in that. So I think what impurity means to us as Jews is that it's in the eye of the beholder. It's not that it's some objective fact that's out there, but if I look at you and see that because you have a limp that you have impurity, then that's where the impurity comes from the consciousness of the person who's viewing the other and making that determination.
Even though God
No
is telling
such thing, there's no such thing as objective impurity.
no such thing as objective impurity when it comes to
It's only impure because I think that it's impure.
What's the word in Hebrew?
For which one?
Oh.
For which word?
Impure and impure.
Oh, tameh is
Tameh.
not pure,
and tahor.
and lo tameh is it's not kosher, not
Tahor
tameh is bad.
pure.
Lo tameh, it's okay.
Yeah, tameh is impure. Tahor.
Mhm.
All right. Well, did we solve the world problems today? Did we figure it all out? I'm not sure.
Practicality, that's it.
Practicality. I love it. All right, everybody.
Thank
I
you.
want to wish you a big Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
And
Thank you.
Shavua
Shabbat
Tov
shalom.
after
Rabbi.
Shabbat, and we'll
Thank
see
you, Rabbi.